The camera's red light flickered on. Across from the stunned podcast host, Kanye West sat still, his hands clasped tightly, as if he were holding the weight of something too big to contain. "You want to know the truth?" he said, leaning slightly toward the microphone. "Some of the most powerful politicians in America were at Diddy's parties. And they weren't there for the music." For a moment, silence swallowed the room. The host blinked rapidly, unsure whether to laugh, gasp, or end the interview. Kanye smirked, watching the disbelief simmer. "Yeah, you heard me." "Before I tell you more," Kanye paused, tapping the table, "hit that subscribe button. You're going to need to hear everything I've got to say." The internet erupted. Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok flooded with clips, hashtags multiplying by the second. Some called him crazy. Others whispered, "What if he's telling the truth?" But behind the noise, there was something deeper, a tremor of fear from those who knew he wasn't bluffing. Kanye leaned back, eyes narrowing as memories flooded in. It wasn't just celebrities. It was senators, governors. People you watch on the news telling you how to live, what's right and wrong, and then I'd see them, same place, same rooms, doing things. He stopped, his voice tightening. Things I can't even say yet. For years, Kanye had played their game, shaking hands, posing for cameras, attending fundraisers, but behind the velvet ropes and red carpets was a hidden world. One built on secrets, blackmail, and silent agreements. It started years ago. A sleek black invitation arrived at his penthouse in Los Angeles. No name, just a gold emblem stamped on heavy cardstock, Diddy's signature mark for those in the know. The instructions were simple. No phones, no entourage, absolute discretion. "I thought it was just another after-party," Kanye recalled. "Music, drinks, maybe some wild stuff. But when I walked through those doors, I realized real quick this wasn't about music. This was about control." The mansion sat high in the Hollywood Hills, isolated, wrapped in layers of security tighter than most government facilities. Windows blacked out, armed guards at the gate. Guests were chauffeured in, their phones confiscated, and NDA contracts signed before they crossed the threshold. Inside, a surreal blend of opulence and shadow. Crystal chandeliers hung over dark mahogany floors, walls lined with surrealist art that twisted the mind. Celebrities lounged on velvet couches alongside people Kanye recognized, not from the music world, but from C-SPAN, CNN, and political campaigns. "I saw faces that shouldn't be there," Kanye said, gripping the mic tighter. Senators, campaign donors, lobbyists, and what they were doing. Man, if America knew. Kanye never forgot one moment. A well-known senator, he wouldn't say the name yet, stepping through a doorway into a private chamber. The man smiled at Diddy, exchanging a handshake that felt more like a contract. Over the years, Kanye's presence at these gatherings shifted. At first, curiosity, then discomfort, and eventually, dread. "They always made sure you knew," Kanye explained. "If you were in that room, they had something on you. Maybe it was a photo, a video, something, insurance." For a long time, Kanye stayed silent, out of fear, out of complicity. But now, the dam had cracked. "I've seen too much, I've stayed quiet too long, and I'm done." But he wasn't naive. As soon as the interview clip went viral, the calls started. Blocked numbers, threats masked as warnings. Whispers of lawsuits, of silence until consequences. "I got receipts," Kanye said, his eyes dead serious. "I got names, I got dates, I got photos." The podcast host leaned forward, whispering into the mic, "Are you sure you want to do this?" Kanye nodded. "Absolutely." And with that, the world braced itself for what came next. Marcus Hill always moved like a ghost, silent, precise, invisible unless he chose otherwise. For years, he was Diddy's shadow. If Diddy was the king, Marcus was the gatekeeper. Nobody got into those parties without going through him. Tall, lean, and always dressed in black, Marcus wasn't just security. He was the filter. His job was simple. Make sure the wrong people stayed out and the right people, Those with secrets, power, and influence stayed in. Kanye remembered the first time Marcus scanned him with those piercing eyes. No words, just a nod toward the clipboard in his hands, followed by a quiet gesture toward a scanner. Fingerprints, retina scan, then the briefcase. Inside were contracts, non-disclosure agreements so tight they felt like shackles. No phones, no recordings, no witnesses, Marcus said, his voice cold as steel. Sign here. Once inside, the world shifted. The mansion sat at the highest peak in the Hollywood Hills, an architectural labyrinth designed not just for luxury but for secrecy, layers of soundproof rooms, hallways that led to nowhere. False walls, private chambers masked behind mirrored panels. The air smelled of expensive perfume mixed with something sour, like sweat, lust, and fear. Staff in designer uniforms floated silently between guests, offering glasses of aged whiskey or exotic substances. Neon lights reflected off polished marble floors, casting strange patterns that made everything feel like a fever dream. Kanye scanned the room. Celebrities, actors, musicians, athletes, mingled with people who absolutely didn't belong in that crowd. Men in tailored suits, women in couture dresses with the cold poise of politicians' wives. He recognized faces from television interviews, political debates, campaign ads, and they weren't here for autographs. A private lounge in the back caught his eye. A velvet rope guarded by two enormous men. Occasionally, someone would slip past, always after exchanging a whispered code with Marcus. Once inside, nobody came out for hours. Kanye's gut twisted. In one corner, he spotted a senator whose voice had thundered across news channels, preaching about family values and moral integrity. Yet here he was, laughing too loudly, whispering into the ear of someone half his age. That's when it hit me, Kanye later confessed. This wasn't about partying. This was about leverage. Diddy's power didn't come just from money or fame. It came from knowing things, from seeing things, from owning the secrets of the rich and powerful. Meanwhile, far from the Hollywood lights, Detective Rachel Myers sat in her cramped New York office, staring at financial documents that didn't add up. Wire transfers from shell companies linked to entertainment firms, strange payments routed through offshore accounts, and buried deep in the data, Diddy's name. She didn't know it yet, but her fraud investigation was about to collide head-on with Kanye's revelations. Her phone buzzed, an anonymous tip, a whisper about parties, about politicians, about things that couldn't be said over the phone. She jotted down the name, Marcus Hill. Back in LA, Kanye paced his studio, heart pounding. The decision weighed heavy. Go public and risk everything, or stay silent and become complicit. The memories haunted him. Faces burned into his mind. Deals made behind closed doors, people smiling for the cameras by day and sinking into moral rot by night. They always told me, Kanye muttered, if you speak, you disappear. But the fear that once kept him quiet was starting to morph into something else, something stronger, something unstoppable. I can't unsee what I've seen, he said to himself, and if I don't say it, who will? Outside, a black SUV idled at the corner, its tinted windows reflecting nothing. Watching, waiting. The clock was ticking. It started with a single post. No names, no direct accusations. Just a cryptic image, an invitation card with a golden emblem partially burned at the edges, and a caption that read, "Y'all ready for the truth? Look closer. You already know who it is." The internet did exactly what Kanye knew it would. Within minutes, Reddit threads exploded with speculation. Twitter users magnified the image, dissecting every pixel. Someone noticed a reflection in the gold foil, a partial name, just 2 letters, but it was enough. The initials matched Senator William Carter. Carter wasn't just any politician. He was the rising star of the party. The clean-cut, camera-friendly senator from Virginia with a reputation for being a champion of family values, education reform, and anti-corruption policies. A man rumored to be gearing up for a presidential run, and now his face was everywhere, but for the wrong reasons. Kanye didn't stop there. Another post followed, a blurry photo from years back captured by someone who clearly wasn't supposed to have a camera inside the party. In the image, Diddy stood shoulder to shoulder with Carter. Behind them, blurred but unmistakable, were two more recognizable figures. One a high-ranking governor, the other a media mogul. The caption was chilling. "They told me to stay quiet. I told them, I'm not built like that." That's when the calls started. First the unknown numbers, silent calls. Then came the veiled threats. A voice, distorted through a scrambler, whispered, "You don't want to do this here. You think you've seen power. You don't even know the half of it. Walk away." But Kanye was past the point of walking away. Enter Vanessa Liu, a relentless investigative journalist known for chasing stories that scared even the boldest newsrooms. She had covered cartel wars, political scandals, and corporate corruption, but this was different. The Kanye file landed on her desk like a lightning bolt. Vanessa's instincts flared as soon as she started digging. Campaign finance records showed an unusual web of donations flowing from Diddy-owned shell companies into several political action committees, PACs backing Senator Carter and a handful of others. But that wasn't all. She traced private jet logs, cross-referenced hotel records, found strange gaps in official schedules that perfectly aligned with the nights of Diddy's infamous gatherings. Then came the leak. An anonymous source, likely a former staffer with an axe to grind, sent Vanessa a folder titled Insurance. Inside were photos. Some were harmless, people drinking, laughing, partying, but others were damning. There was Senator Carter, arm draped around a young woman whose face was blurred, but whose wrist bore a bracelet only handed out to VIP guests of those parties. Another photo showed Carter shaking hands with Marcus Hill at the private lounge entrance. Behind them, a door marked with a golden symbol, the one Kanye had posted earlier. Mainstream media hesitated, but not for long. The story was too big. The Washington Post ran a front-page headline, "Senator Carter linked to secret Hollywood parties. Photos emerge." Carter cancelled all public appearances. His team released a statement calling the accusations baseless, defamatory, and politically motivated. But behind the scenes, panic spread like wildfire. Back in New York, Detective Rachel Meyer's case file had grown exponentially. The financial crimes she was investigating weren't just about tax fraud anymore. The same accounts linked to Diddy's companies also tied to shell corporations registered to political consultants and campaign staffers. Kanye knew this was just the beginning. "They always said nobody would believe me," he said in a live video. "But it's not about belief anymore, it's about proof, and the proof is coming." As the screen faded to black, millions held their breath. The storm was no longer coming, it was here. Detective Rachel Myers sat hunched over her cluttered desk, staring at a web of red string stretched between photos, bank statements, and names scribbled in black marker. What had started as a routine financial fraud case had now blown wide open into something far darker and far more dangerous. The deeper she dug, the more the connections became undeniable. Diddy's entertainment empire wasn't just about music and parties, it was a front. Shell companies, offshore accounts, and money laundering trails led straight to some of the country's most powerful politicians, including Senator Carter. Rachel wasn't the only one racing against the clock. Kanye and Vanessa Liu were now fully in the storm. Together, they pored over the documents, videos, and testimonies coming in from whistleblowers emboldened by Kanye's public defiance. But exposure came with consequences. Kanye noticed it first, a black SUV parked outside his gated property for hours. The same vehicle showed up at different locations throughout the day, his studio, his daughter's school, even the recording label office. No plates, no drivers visible. One night, an anonymous message pinged on his phone. "You have one chance to walk away. After that, no guarantees." Kanye chuckled bitterly. They still think fear works. Meanwhile, politicians scrambled. Some distanced themselves from Diddy entirely, issuing carefully worded statements condemning any alleged misconduct. Others, more deeply involved, started lawyering up. Behind the scenes, power brokers convened, emergency meetings in private clubs, phone calls that bypassed official channels. The goal was simple: containment. Silence Kanye. Silence Vanessa. Destroy Rachel's case before it ever reached a courtroom. But the machine was cracking. Vanessa's investigation uncovered not just financial crimes, but surveillance videos, grainy footage captured by a former security employee turned whistleblower. The footage revealed more than just parties. It showed backroom deals, compromising situations involving high-ranking officials, and people being coerced into silence. One particularly damning clip showed Senator Carter in a heated argument with Marcus Hill. Though the audio was poor, certain words stood out. "This wasn't the deal. You promised, if this gets out," before Carter stormed off, visibly shaken. Rachel filed for federal warrants. Her superior, hesitant at first, now saw the scale. "This isn't just a state issue anymore," he admitted. "This is national security." Pressure mounted as Kanye prepared for the next step, a full live-stream reveal. But someone tried to stop him. 2 hours before the scheduled stream, SWAT teams swarmed Kanye's home. A false tip had been called in, a bomb threat. Officers in tactical gear burst through his doors, guns raised, screaming commands. Kanye hit the floor, hands over his head. "They're trying to shut me up," he yelled, as chaos unfolded around him. But as officers searched the property and realized the tip was bogus, the truth became painfully clear. This wasn't about safety. It was intimidation. They left without charges, but the message was sent. Kanye wasn't shaken. He was furious. "They think this scares me," he said, pacing his studio. "No, this proves I'm right. And now, they're gonna regret it." As midnight approached, the counter ticked down. Millions waited. Detective Myers watched from her precinct office, heart pounding. Vanessa sat in her apartment, eyes glued to the screen, phone in hand ready to release the full dossier the moment Kanye went live. All across the nation, televisions, phones, and laptops lit up with the notification, "Kanye West. Live." The truth was seconds away. The screen flickered, then locked onto Kanye's face. His eyes were sharp, unwavering. Behind him, stacks of documents, hard drives, and folders sat like monuments of defiance. "This isn't about me," Kanye began, voice steady. "This is about them, the people you trusted, the people who smile for cameras, shake hands, make promises, and then show up at places like this." With a click, he pulled up the first image. The screen split. On one side, a well-lit photo of Senator William Carter speaking at a family values rally. On the other, a grainy but unmistakable shot of Carter inside Diddy's private mansion, standing beside Marcus Hill, signing what appeared to be an NDA. The chat exploded. Comments flew by so fast they were unreadable. TikTokers clipped it in real time. Twitter hashtags surged. Carter exposed. Diddygate, Kanye leaks. Kanye continued. Names, dates, locations. He showed flight logs, private jets ferrying politicians between Washington, LA, and private islands. Financial statements tracing donations from Diddy's hidden accounts to multiple political campaigns. Then came the videos, blurry footage of backroom meetings, deals sealed with handshakes and envelopes. A senator caught demanding favors in exchange for silence, a governor seen entering a private room with a woman who appeared far younger than legal. Kanye's voice hardened. "They wanted me silent. They thought I'd fold. But I told you, I'm not built like that." The most shocking clip showed Senator Carter confronting Marcus Hill, slamming a glass down. Though the audio was rough, the words were clear enough. "If this ever gets out, we both go down, you hear me?" Within minutes, legal authorities sprang into action. FBI agents raided Diddy's properties in Los Angeles and Miami. News helicopters hovered overhead as agents carried out boxes of evidence. Diddy himself vanished, his legal team issuing a brief statement claiming he was cooperating fully, while refusing to disclose his location. Senator Carter, pale and visibly shaken, stood behind a podium in Virginia the next morning. His voice trembled as he read from a statement. "These accusations are categorically false. This is a coordinated smear campaign orchestrated by individuals seeking fame and influence." But the cameras caught the sweat on his brow, the tremor in his hands, the guilt he could no longer hide. Detective Rachel Myers, now thrust into the national spotlight, stood flanked by federal agents as her department filed official charges: fraud, conspiracy, racketeering, and more. Her determination paid off. What began as a quiet financial probe had unraveled one of the largest corruption networks in recent American history. Vanessa Liu published her full exposé online, complete with every document, photo, and testimony they'd gathered. It became the most read article in the history of digital journalism within hours. And Kanye. He sat back in his studio watching the world react. "I didn't do this for clout," he said quietly during a follow-up stream. "I did it because they think money and power make them untouchable. But they forgot. Truth doesn't care about money." The fallout was seismic. Several high-ranking officials resigned, others were indicted. Investigations spread beyond Diddy's circle into other industries: entertainment, finance, even law enforcement. The ripple effects shook the very foundations of power. As Kanye ended his stream, his eyes softened for the first time. This ain't over, not by a long shot, but at least now the world knows. And if you thought this was wild, he smiled, hit that subscribe button. Check out the next video right here. We're going deeper into the fallout, the arrests, and what happens next. You don't want to miss it. The screen faded out, but the echo of the truth stayed forever.